Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take your sources, dig in, and pull out the key insights. Today, we're tackling the Vajra. It's described in your notes as, well, one of the most potent, iconic weapons in Hindu and Buddhist mythology. Our mission here is to unpack all its origins in myth, what it symbolizes, its huge cultural impact, some really intriguing real-world ideas about it, and even theories on where it might be now. Get ready to maybe see ancient myth a little differently.
Absolutely. And as we go through these sources you sent, you'll notice the Vajra. It's really not just a weapon. It kind of emerges as this multi-layered symbol. It really pushes you to think critically about power, about sacrifice, and, the nature of truth itself. It goes way beyond just being a physical thing.
That's a great way to frame it. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then, the mythical origins. What's the earliest connection we know of, and how did this incredible artifact actually come to be?
Right, so its earliest and probably most famous association is with Indra. He's the king of the Devas, this sort of benevolent celestial beings, and the lord of Svarga, which is basically heaven in Hindu cosmology.
Yeah.
It was crafted by Tvashtar, who's like the divine architect or craftsman for the gods.
Okay, the divine craftsman.
Yeah, but the real core of its creation story, the really striking part, involves a sage named Dadhichi. In this incredible act of selflessness, he willingly gave up his life, his physical body.
Willingly.
Willingly. So his skeleton, which was apparently incredibly potent spiritually due to his ascetic practices, could be used. They used his bones to forge a weapon strong enough to defeat Vritra.
Vritra, he's the enemy.
He's the primordial asura-serpent. Represents drought, chaos, holding back the waters, essentially life itself.
Wow, so the weapon's actual substance is sacrifice. That's profound. Does that origin, shape how it's seen or used later on, beyond just its power to destroy?
Oh, absolutely it does. It's central. The Rigveda, one of the oldest Hindu sacred texts, gives a vivid account of Indra's fight with Vritra. See, Vritra had basically trapped all the world's waters, caused this massive drought, immense suffering. The gods couldn't stop him.
They were powerless.
Right, so they turned to Indra, and it was Dadhichi's sacrifice, his ultimate gift, that allowed the Vajra to be created. It was infused with both Tvashtar's divine skill and Dadhichi's spiritual power from his austerities. Indra then uses this unique weapon to literally split Vritra open, releasing the waters and, restoring cosmic balance.
So the insight there is that true power for good, often requires ultimate sacrifice.
Exactly. That blend of divine making and spiritual power right in its creation makes it totally unique. It's not just a tool. It's like a physical embodiment of a principle.
Okay, so moving on from that incredible origin story, let's dig into its symbolism. It's called the thunderbolt diamond. What does that actually represent?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Its symbolism is so layered. On one hand, like a diamond, it's seen as indestructible. It represents this unyielding spiritual strength.
And unbreakable.
Right. But then, like a thunderbolt, it's also irresistible, unstoppable. It symbolizes this illuminating force that just cuts through. This duality isn't just, a neat metaphor. It gets at a core spiritual idea that real, lasting power isn't brute force. It's more about an inner strength, an inner fortitude that can both withstand anything and light the way to truth. It kind of challenges our usual ideas of what strength even means.
That's a really interesting take on strength, unbreakable, but also insightful, illuminating.
Precisely, and then think back to its origin made from a sage's bones. That directly points to the sacred power of tapasya.
Tapasya, that's austerity, discipline.
Austerity, intense spiritual discipline, sacrifice, yes, and also dharma, which is, the foundational cosmic law, righteous duty, the moral order of the universe. This is the very fabric of reality, in a sense. Then in Tibetan Buddhism, it gains even more layers. It comes to represent compassion and upaya, or skillful means. It's seen as capable of cutting right through illusion, through the ego, basically dissolving the false ideas and self-centeredness that block enlightenment.
Cutting through illusion.
Yeah, and you often see it used in rituals paired with the ghanta, the bell. The Vajra represents action or method, the bell represents wisdom. Together, they symbolize the union of action and insight needed for enlightenment.
So it's not just about destruction then?
Not at all. The key thing is that the Vajra is seen as a weapon of dharma. It's not for conquest. Indra uses it specifically to destroy adharma, unrighteousness, chaos, and restore cosmic order. It's a tool for balance, fundamentally, not aggression.
That distinction feels really important, a force for equilibrium. Now, clearly this symbol, this idea, it didn't just stay in old myths. You mentioned it has this huge historical and cultural footprint across Asia. How did it spread and maybe change over time?
Oh, its footprint is massive. In Hinduism, Yeah, Indra and his Vajra show up again and again. Rigvedic hymns, Puranic stories. You see depictions in temples, sculptures all over. But its influence really exploded with Buddhism. It became a absolutely central icon in Vajrayana Buddhism.
Vajrayana.
That translates to...
It's a thunderbolt vehicle or diamond vehicle, literally. It represents the indestructible nature of ultimate truth, of enlightenment itself. Ritual Vajras, usually with 5 prongs you see them, are commonly used in tantric practices, ceremonies across Tibet, Nepal, Japan.
So it went from being a god's weapon in a story to a hands-on ritual object.
Exactly.
Right.
Which really speaks to its adaptability, right? And the universal appeal of its core ideas. Its imagery also soaked into architecture and art. You find it on mandalas, dankas, those Buddhist scroll paintings, even guarding temple gates.
Wow. And it didn't stop there. It influenced imperial symbols in Southeast Asia. Kings would sometimes compare their just rule to the righteous thunderbolt of the gods. It's even part of national symbols today, like on Bhutan's royal crest. And back in the day, it was seen as a divine tool of kingship in Indonesia's Majapahit Empire.
It's amazing how one symbol can weave through spirituality, politics, art, across so many different cultures.
It really is. It shows the enduring power of these core concepts.
Okay, so beyond the symbolism and the cultural spread, some of your sources get into some pretty startling real-world interpretations. Were these descriptions of lightning and destruction just allegory, or could the Vajra have been something more, well, tangible?
Right, and this is where things get speculative, but it forces us to look at these ancient texts in new ways. The sources mention various theories. Some people look at the descriptions generating thunder, lightning, immense destructive force, and speculate, was this some kind of ancient directed energy weapon?
Like science fiction almost.
Sort of. Or maybe a sonic weapon, a plasma emitter. Something used by, ancient beings or a lost civilization. There are even theories connecting it to Nikola Tesla's ideas.
Tesla, how so?
Well, the idea of wireless electrical energy transmission, or even his more controversial death ray concepts, the descriptions of lightning-like discharges and very targeted destruction kind of resonate with those ideas for some people.
So maybe some kind of ancient high technology.
That's one line of thought, yes.
Yeah.
Another angle looks at the material. Maybe Dadhichi's bone is metaphorical, or maybe it hints that the Vajra was made from some kind of exotic, non-earthly material, perhaps a meteorite.
A meteorite core. Interesting.
Yeah. But then there's another interpretation, maybe the most profound one, that the Vajra isn't external at all. It could represent an internal force, like awakened consciousness, or maybe the Kundalini energy, that spiritual power, often visualized as coiled at the base of the spine.
Ah, so an inner weapon.
Exactly. An inner force that, when directed through discipline and sacrifice, like Dadhichi's, can destroy illusion and ego from within, a tool for self-mastery. What all these theories really show, I think, is our ongoing attempt to make sense of these extraordinary ancient stories, trying to bridge them with our modern understanding of science, technology, consciousness. It makes you ask, is myth sometimes history hidden in allegory?
It's fascinating how these different views really push you to question assumptions, isn't it? It makes you reconsider what myth even is. Could every ancient story hold layers we just haven't quite figured out yet? Okay, so the big question then. If the Vajra was a physical object, even potentially, any theories on where it might be now?
Well, if it ever existed as a single physical artifact matching the myths, its current location is obviously unknown. But the sources discuss several possibilities. One idea points to the ritual Vajras we already mentioned, the ones used in Vajrayana temples, Tibet, Bhutan, Nepal.
The ones used in ceremonies.
Yes, they're often seen as spiritual echoes, maybe symbolic descendants, of the original divine weapon. Some are made from special sacred alloys and treated almost like relics. So in a way, it's hidden in plain sight, symbolically.
Okay.
Then there's the connection to Indra's realm. He's said to live atop Mount Meru, the mythical cosmic mountain at the center of the universe. So some legends say the real Vajra is still there, in his heavenly palace, or maybe buried somewhere near its earthly reflection, perhaps in the Himalayas.
Hidden away in a mythical place, or maybe a very remote real one.
Right. Another theory is that after the battle with Vritra, maybe the weapon was dismantled, or deliberately hidden away. Its power just considered too immense, too dangerous for later, lesser ages to handle.
Too powerful for mortals.
Potentially. And then there's the kind of tantalizing idea of secret guardians, that the Vajra, maybe like other legendary divine weapons, wasn't destroyed or lost, but sealed away, guarded by some ancient hidden order, perhaps waiting for the next epic struggle between Dharma and Adharma, good and evil.
Like something out of an adventure story.
It has that feel, definitely. But maybe we should think bigger than the material world. Perhaps the Vajra doesn't exist as a physical thing anymore. Maybe it exists now in the form of enlightened minds or in acts of courage and righteousness.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. Every time someone speaks truth to power, every time an act of compassion cuts through ignorance or cruelty, maybe that is the Vajra striking again symbolically. Its power isn't lost, it's just transformed.
That's actually a really powerful way to think about it, a living symbol. Okay, so we've really covered a lot of ground here. From the Vajra's dramatic origins in myth, its incredibly deep symbolism, that huge cultural spread across Asia, and then diving into these fascinating, sometimes wild, speculative theories about what it was and where it might be.
Yeah, and I think the key takeaway, looking across all these sources, is how the Vajra, whether you see it as pure myth, or maybe lost tech, or a deep spiritual metaphor, it just powerfully demonstrates the enduring strength of symbols. And it shows humanity's really complex, multi-layered way of understanding big concepts like force, sacrifice, truth, and cosmic order. It's like an artifact of consciousness itself.
Definitely food for thought. We hope this deep dive gave you some aha moments and maybe a shortcut to feeling pretty well informed about this extraordinary artifact. So here's something to chew on, maybe. Thinking about the Vajra as that weapon of Dharma, or the destroyer of ignorance. What act of truth could you maybe unleash today? Or what illusion, big or small, might you want to cut through in your own life? What really stands out to you about its power and its meaning? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.